Hello everyone. So today we'll take up the next part of the chapter Living World. We had seen various characteristics or the defining features for a living organism. So today we will see what are the next part of it. We have seen that there are so many diversified life forms, isn't it? Billions of life forms, or to mention, there are about 1.7 to 1.8 million known organisms, living organisms. When there is such a huge number, don't you feel there should be a proper way of naming it, proper way of identification or classifying it? Only then it will be easy to study, isn't it? If there is no proper way of classifying, then how do you study? Is it possible that you have to or you can study all the living organisms present on the earth? Imagine we have a population of 121 billion, isn't it? Can you just study each and every individual? No, right? But it is easy to study Homo sapiens, isn't it? We cannot study the whole human population one by one, but we can study Homo sapiens because Homo sapiens is a category. It is a group in one particular living organisms, right? So today we will be seeing how exactly the living organisms are being classified or they are being categorized. Fine. Now, we'll take one more example so that you'll have a better understanding. See, you know the guava fruit, isn't it? In English, we call it as guava. In Kannada, we call it as peru or seebe hannu. And in Hindi, we call it as amrut. In Telugu, we call it as jampandu. So, this one single fruit has got so many local names, right? You're trying to understand? The one single fruit has got many local names. In other different languages, they can have other names also. But when you take up this particular local names to some other place, so it is very difficult to convey it. What you're telling, it might not be understood by the person of the different location. But if there was one particular name which is being widely accepted, then it would be very easy to make people understand about what you are speaking. Guava is the local name of English, whereas the scientific name for that is Psydum gajava. Now, when you say guava, people who know English, only they can understand. But when you say Psydum gajava, the whole scientific community understands about what we are speaking. So, the name which can be widely accepted all over the continents or across the globe, that is very important. So, scientific community has come up with one task where each and every type of organism is assigned a name which is widely accepted, and that particular process of naming a living organism is called as the nomenclature. And today's class is all about the nomenclature, that is naming of a living organism. Nomenclature. Okay, so as I said, there are certain rules and regulations before naming an organisms. They are supposed to follow those rules and regulations. Now, who is giving the rules and regulations? The organizations which are providing the rules and regulations. All right, I repeat, the organizations which are providing the rules and regulation to name a particular living organism or for the nomenclature is, the first organization is International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. Another organization is International Code for Zoological Nomenclature. So these two are the organizations which are working on the nomenclature or naming of the living organizations. And what is the type of the nomenclature which is being followed by the scientific community? That is, we follow the binomial mode of nomenclature or binomial way of nomenclature. What does the binomial means? Binomial means the name which is given, it has got two components. Like if it is humans have got the name as Homo sapiens. So Homo is one component, sapiens is another component. Alright. And another example, Mangifera indica. Mangifera indica. Again, this is the scientific name of mango and this is scientific name of humans. Alright. So if you observe these names, both the names have got two components. This is component number 1. This is component number 2. Again, first component and second component. Since there are two components or bicomponent, we call this type or this process of naming as binomial. Okay, binomial nomenclature. And this binomial nomenclature was given by scientist Carolus Linnaeus. Carolus Linnaeus, right? He is the scientist who gave the system of binomial nomenclature. Then, what are the rules which are being framed by ICBN and ICJN? International Code for Botanical Nomenclature, International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. These two are the organizations which usually provide the rules for naming. We will see what are the rules. Rules for nomenclature. Rules for nomenclature which are given by ICBN and ICJN. Okay, the first one is the name which is given for a living organism should be in Latin. Okay, the name should be a Latin word. The language which is chosen here is Latin language. So the scientific name should be a Latin word. Okay, like we have Homo sapiens and I had written Mangifera indica, Panthera tigris. All these are the Latin words. They are derived from Latin. And then if in case a scientific name is handwritten, okay, if a scientific name is handwritten, then that components or bicomponents should be underlined. For example, again I'll write Mangifera indica. Mangifera indica. So since I'm writing it by hand, since it is a handwritten, it should be underlined. If in case the scientific name is typed, if it is typed in the computer, then it should be in italics. The font of the name, the font of the scientific name should be italicized or it should be in italics. This is the second rule. And then third rule. As we know that binomial nomenclature means it should have two components. The first component is genus. Okay, the first component is called as genus and second component is called as species. So in this example here, Mangifera indica, Mangifera is the genus and indica is the species. Alright, so third rule is out of those two components, the first component should be genus and second component should be species. Then fourth one, sometimes you can also write the name of the scientist who have given the name in the abbreviated form. For example, Mangifera indica only will take. Mangifera indica was given by Carolus Linnaeus. So Now you can also mention the name of the Linnaeus in the abbreviated form. The author name, the author who have given the scientific name, his name can be written in the abbreviated form. Abbreviated form is short form. It can be in the abbreviated form. So how do we write it? Here it is Lin. Lin is the abbreviated form of Linnaeus. Okay, so Mangifera indica Lin. It means that Mangifera indica is the scientific name of mango, and this was suggested by Carolus Linnaeus, or author is Carolus Linnaeus. So these are the main rules which you have to follow while writing a scientific name. So the first one is it should be in the Latin. Second one is if it is handwritten, it should be underlined, and if it is typed, it should be in the italics. Third one is genus and species, two components. And fourth one is the author name can be written in the abbreviated form. Then one more, which is very important, the genus, the first letter of the genus, it should be in the capital. Genus, first word. All right, the first letter of the genus should be in capital, and the first letter of the species, first letter of species should be in small letters. Should be in small letter. Okay, it means here Mangifera indica. Okay, so here this is capital and here it is small. Fine. And you can write one more example. Homo sapiens. Underline it separately. You cannot underline it like this continuously. Okay, you have to underline genus separately and species separately. Fine. So these are the 5 rules which have to be followed while writing a scientific name, and these rules are given by ICBN and ICJN. You have to remember the names of the organization. I'm going to repeat it again. International Code for Botanical Nomenclature and International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. So these two are the organizations. So now we have seen the naming process. Fine. So once you name, for example, humans only are named as the Homo sapiens. We'll take example of humans only. Imagine there is a class. In the class, 50 members are sitting. Fine. 50 members are sitting and listening to the class. And scientifically, while speaking, you can observe the class and say that there are 50 Homo sapiens. Okay, there are 50 Homo sapiens. Each Homo sapien has a local name. That is for our convenience. We have kept the names. My name is Neha. That has been for my convenience. People can recognize me. But as a whole, how does the scientific community recognize us as? It recognizes us as the Homo sapien. Okay, so soon after the naming, the next process is you have to classify the organisms. Like people who are sitting, the 50 living organisms who are sitting in the classrooms are Homo sapiens. Okay, and imagine you have seen some dogs roaming on the streets. Looking into them, you classify them as dogs, right? Or do you classify them, or you tell them as one single living organism, second living organism, third living organism? No, right? You classify them as a group of dogs, group of Homo sapiens, isn't it? So after the naming, you have to group the organisms, and that grouping is called as the classification or categorization of the organisms, placing the organisms into different categories or different groups or different classes so that it is easy to study. So as I said previously, instead of studying the whole human population, you can simply study the Homo sapiens, isn't it? If you just study Homo sapiens, it applies to the whole human population. So the next one is the classification. What is classification or what is categorization? See, classification is mainly grouping the organisms based on the easily observable characteristics. Like I said, if 50 people or 50 living organisms are sitting in a classroom, looking at them, you can easily say that all the 50 living organisms are human beings, isn't it? So those are the easily observable characteristics. If there are some elephants roaming on the street, then just seeing into them, just looking into them, you can say these are elephants only, right? It means those are the easily observable characteristics. So grouping of the organisms, I'll write it on the board. What do you mean by classification? Grouping of the organisms, grouping of organisms based on easily observable characters or features. Characters or features is called as classification. Now, while classifying, we classify the organisms at different levels, or we give different ranks to the organisms, and those categories or the scientific term which is used to denote a category is the taxa. Scientific name for a particular category. For a category is taxa. In other words, I can say a level of classification, a rank given for the classification. We have hierarchical level of the classification. Alright, we have hierarchical level of classification which starts from kingdom to the species. So every single level or every single rank is called as the taxa. Fine. Now, and we have seen the characterization, classification, identification and nomenclature, isn't it? So this is classification. We have previously seen the nomenclature or identification, and we have also seen the characterization in the previous video. So altogether, when you put up all those four words together, that is the characterization. Remember this particular definition: characterization, classification, identification and nomenclature. The branch of science, okay, the branch of science which deals with the study of characterization, classification, identification and nomenclature of an organism is called as taxonomy. I repeat, the branch of science which deals with the study of characterization, classification, identification and nomenclature is called as the taxonomy. Now, as I said, there are different taxas, or there are different levels, there are different ranks. So, we will imagine one example now again. Homo sapiens, or simply I'll write it as humans. Okay, humans and monkeys. humans and monkeys. So this is one particular category, or this is one class and this is another category, right? Humans belong to one group and monkeys belong to another group. So this is one classification, this is one classification. Now we all know that humans and monkeys have same ancestors, isn't it? So the study of the relation between two groups or different groups of organisms, I repeat, the study of relationship between different groups of organisms is called as systematics. Systematics. Remember this particular word. This is one important word from the exam point of view. I repeat it again. Systematics is the study of relationship among different groups of organisms or between different groups of organisms, just to make sure their evolution. Okay, so when we study the relationship, we get to know what exactly features they share, or what are the similarities between these two groups and what are the dissimilarities. So when we get to know the similarities, we also will be knowing about their evolutionary story, isn't it? So the study of the relationship among or between different groups of organisms is called as systematics. And this word systematics was again given by Linnaeus. Linnaeus or Carolus Linnaeus, and he mentioned this particular systematics in one of his publication, which was named as Systema Naturae. Systema Naturae. Systema Naturae is the name of the book or the publication which was published by Carolus Linnaeus, and in that book for the first time he spoke about, or he mentioned about, the study of all these organisms or relationship between the organisms, which is systematics. Okay, so we have seen what is nomenclature, what is the characterization or what is classification, and what is taxonomy. Right, now we will see what is the hierarchical level. Fine, hierarchical level is, as I said, there are different groups, or there are different groups which are being placed in one particular taxa, or there is one particular group which is being placed under one taxa. And what is a taxa? Taxa is a level or rank in the system of the classification. So what are different levels? So different levels are the kingdom, phylum, or the division, and then the class, order, family, genus, and species. So what are these? We will study one by one. And remember, the father of taxonomy is also the Carolus Linnaeus. So Linnaeus' contribution is more in this particular hierarchical level of the classification. So he has actually contributed more, and it was his idea to give a proper hierarchical level for each and every organism so that it will be easy for the studies. And later on, scientists have modified the Carolus Linnaeus system of classification, and today we have this modified system of hierarchical level of classification. So we will start from the basic level. So as I said, it starts from kingdom to species. Alright, it starts from kingdom to species. So species is the most basic rank or basic tax or basic level of classification. We will start from that only. So what is species? Species is very closely related organisms are being classified under one species, or very closely related, most closely related organisms are put under one particular group, and that is called as the species. We have two examples here. Okay. And while studying the binomial nomenclature, I had said that there will be two components in a scientific name. One is the genus and one is the species. So you can observe here in this example, the genus is same. The Solanum genus is same, and there are 3 different species. Solanum tuberosum, it is potato. Solanum melangina, it is brinjal. And Solanum lycopodium, it is tomato. So all these 3, potato, brinjal and tomato, since they share very common similarities or very common characteristics, they are being placed under one particular genus, that is the Solanum. So what are the species? Species are most commonly related organisms, or the organisms which share a lot of similarities are called as the species. Then genus. What is a genus? Genus is again the group of organisms which share the related characteristics, but the number of characteristics which are similar as compared to species is quite less in the genus. Okay, so if the species are sharing some 10 similar characteristics, when it comes to genus, the genus will be sharing a bit less number of characteristics, or a very less number of similarities will be there. So we can take, if it is 10 here, we can take 8 here. Okay, just this is an example. It is not 10 and 8 exactly. I'm just giving a example here, right? So genus, as we have seen, this is one example, Solanum. Another genus example is Panthera. So Panthera tigris, Panthera leo and Panthera pardus. Tigris is tiger, leo is lion and pardus is leopard. All big cats. Okay, so they all belong to same genus called as Panthera. So here I said in the genus, same genus will be, or the genus which are sharing, or the species which are sharing similar characteristics will be placed under one particular genus. So these are sharing the same characteristics, hence they are being placed under one common genus called as Panthera. Alright, like Panthera, Solanum is also one genus and Felis is also one genus. So Panthera is genus number 1, Felis is genus number 2. Okay, so we will continue with these 2 examples now. So Felis is the genus which includes the cats here. Fine. Next one, family. So family is here very closely related genus. Alright, very closely related genus are placed under one particular family. Fine. So if the Panthera and Felis, Panthera is all tigers, lions and leopards. Alright, that is the Panthera tigris, Panthera leo and Panthera pardus. So one genus is Panthera and the second genus is Felis, that is the cats. So we all know that we call the leopards and everything as the big cats, isn't it? So these 2 genuses are sharing some similar characteristics or some similar features. We call it as related genus. Alright, related genus, they are placed under one family and the family name is Felidae. Okay, the Panthera and Felis are the genus. They are placed under the family called as Felidae. Then next one, order. So here what happens? See, this is one family. This is family number 1. Like Felidae, there is one more family called as Canidae. Okay, Canidae. So now this Felidae and Canidae will also share similar characteristics. Again I repeat, we had taken 10 here, the similarities were 10 here. Now the similarities have reduced to 8 here. Again from 8 to the family, the similarities will much more reduce. We can take it as 6 here. Alright, from the family, when it comes to order, it has still more reduced, and we can take it as some 4 or 5. Okay, so we'll take it as 5. So here we have one family called as Felidae and another family called as Canidae. Okay, so these two families, since they share very common or some common features or related features, hence we have placed them under one single order, that is called as Carnivora. Okay, Carnivora is the name of the order under which Felidae and Canidae families are being placed. Then moving on to the next one, class. So here again the similarities or related features will be reduced. So let's take it as 3 here now. So what happens? Carnivora is one order. Okay, Carnivora is one order which has Felidae and Canidae families. So this Carnivora and one more order called as Primata. Primata is the one which includes monkeys. So this is also one order and this is also one order. So these two orders, the Carnivora and the Primata, are sharing few related characteristics or features. Hence, they are being placed under one single class called as the Mammalia. So, Mammalia is the name of class. Then, next one is phylum. So, like Mammalia is one single class, there are other classes also like amphibians, reptiles and birds. So all these classes are being placed under one phylum called as Chordata. Alright. Now Chordata is a phylum. After the phylum, the next level is the kingdom. Next level is kingdom. So kingdom, we have two here. One is Animalia, other one is Plantae. All the organisms which are related to the plant features are placed under the Plantae, and which share the features similar to Animalia placed under the Animalia. Fine. So, I repeat it again. Species is very basic level. Above the species, we have genus. Above the genus, we have family. Above it, we have order. And then above it, we have class. And above the class, we have phylum. And the highest ranking or highest hierarchy of the classification is kingdom. So, when we write it, we can write it as kingdom. Alright, we can write it as kingdom. Next highest one is phylum. Phylum or division. In case of animals, we consider it as phylum. In case of plants, we take it as division. After the division, the next one is class. Then order. Then family. And then it is genus. And then species. Alright. So I hope you have understood the levels of classification. In the next part of the chapter, we will see few examples and then we will move on to the taxonomical aids. So subscribe the channel and watch the videos properly and learn the concepts very clearly as well. Allow your friends also to learn by sharing the videos. Bye.